let me shift here, and I just want to talk a little bit about silence. Silence, my sisters and brothers, has many dimensions. There is a sacred silence, which is that silence out of which creative contemplation grows. It's a meditation on the word and the will of God. It's the silence out of which we meditate and get closer to God. It's the silence in which fervent prayer is born. There is a sacred silence. But then there's a seething silence that comes when you are quiet externally, but you've got a storm going on the inside. The late Dr. Howard Thurman called that a noisy quietness. But then finally, and here's the silence I want to get to, there is a sinful silence. And Adam's silence falls into this category because a sinful silence is a silence that comes over you when you ought to say something, but you don't say nothing at all. It is that silence that creeps in when you ought to speak up for God, but you sit there acting like you don't know what God said. My sisters and brothers, I fear that Adam was not only silent on that fateful day in the garden when a serpent showed up, but Adam has remained silent through the centuries. When Africans were captured and taken from their homeland, packed in the hulls of ships, sold on auction blocks, beat and killed and misused and kept in chattel slavery, Adam was silent. When Jews were persecuted, deported, and murdered by Nazis, Adam was silent. When Native Americans were slaughtered in the acts of genocide so their land could be taken from them, Adam was silent. When our ancestors were lynched and called boy and girl, even though they were full grown, when they were denied employment and equal access to resources, Adam was silent. And today, far too often, when our boys are shooting and killing each other on the streets, and our girls suffer from low self-esteem and give birth to children whose daddies won't stay around to take care of them, Adam is still silent. Sisters and brothers, there is a sinful silence among us when injustice is raging and we remain quiet. When people are aching, when people are hurting, when babies are crying and dying of hunger and not having enough love from insufficient care, and we remain silent, that is a sinful silence. When the church looks and sees what's going on in its communities, and not just in its communities, but what's going on right there in the household of faith, and we sit there and act like we don't know what's going on, that is a sinful silence. And let me suggest that there's a time when silence is sinful. And here in the text, we see a snake talking to Adam's wife. Adam remains silent. Adam should have said something. My sisters and brothers, the nation is waiting for somebody to say something. Go on, touch your neighbor and tell him you ought to say something. You see them boys on the corner, you ought to say something. You see what's happening with those sisters. I'm not talking about Pookie and Ray Ray and them. I'm talking about the saints' children. Y'all ain't gonna help me in here today. You ought to say something. The classroom is waiting for somebody to say something. Youth violence is waiting for somebody to say something. Every community, every city, every town, every home, every boy, every girl, every family is waiting for the church to break the silence. And if we don't break the silence, let me tell you what's going to happen. If we don't break the silence, we end up embracing the appeals of the serpent. What are the appeals of the serpent?
90.7 WTCC. Good morning and welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan II. And as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. It is 3 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. I want to thank Mr. Kenneth Barnett bringing us up into the 9 o'clock hour with the promise. You can hear the promise every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. bringing you the best in gospel music. Good way to start out your Monday morning. A great way to start out your weekend. I got something that I want to talk about. I got something on my mind. I got something that I need to say. Okay? I need to say something. Listen, there's been a lot of coverage over the last couple of weeks since Russia invaded Ukraine. And part of that coverage has been, how shocked these white journalists are that war is happening in Europe. How they empathize with the Ukrainians because they're blonde haired and blue eyed. They look like us. Can't believe this isn't Africa or the Middle East. This is Europe. I mean, the coverage has been crazy, and I'm like, where did these people learn history? They must have flunked it, or else their school just didn't have it. Because, some of the most atrocious and horrible events of man's inhumanity to man in the history of the world have happened in Europe. I mean, have they ever heard of World War I, World War II, the Holocaust, the 100 Years War, Germanic Wars, the Balkan Wars? I mean, where have they been? Where have they been? Violence in America, racialized violence in America is nothing but something that white folks brought over with them from Europe. And to sit here and pretend like this violence against blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, this doesn't fit, in the scope of human history. We could understand if this was happening to black Africans. So we're going to tell the truth about violence in Europe, about white violence and violence in Europe, because these people are bugging. Straight up. They're tripping. 413-337-1867 is the number here. If you're in the Twitter space, welcomes to everybody in all the various spaces that are up in here. Good to have you. Do me a favor, like and share and all that good stuff. Tell a friend, tell somebody that the bishop is on the air. Come on in here so we can have this conversation, because, this is an important conversation to have. This is part of what white folks are doing here in America, talking about critical race theory and trying to ban the teaching of American history. It's no different than the coverage of the Ukraine war, trying to pretend like the history of white-on-white violence in the scope of global history doesn't exist. And so we're gonna set the record straight. We're gonna talk about a little bit of that stuff. Coming up at 1:30, Senator Eric Lesser with our State House update. We'll be back next week with Justice and Flow with some exciting guests and topics that are going to be happening over the next few weeks. So, stay tuned for all of that. I'm sure First Lady is probably in the comments or somewhere up in here. Matter of fact, we may bring her on towards the end of this program just to say hey to y'all. In any case, rep your city, rep your town. Let people know where you're chiming in from. Rep your city, rep your town. Like, share, subscribe. Tell somebody we in here. We're on the air. We're trying to do our thing. All of that good stuff. Stay with us. Don't y'all go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Attitude says everything about you. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. Every day you get up, you can give it a gift. That's why we call it the present. And it's up to you how you invest it. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow's a mystery. Today is a gift. So don't let the pain of your past bleed into your present and poison your future. Stop replaying the movie. Why did this happen to me? When it's done with you, you're done with it. When it seems like you keep running into pigeons, it's an indication that you're flying too low. So set your sights along higher. Eagles fly by themselves. If you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. Allow your challenges to be a stepping stone to propel you into new possibilities. So be discontent with your past accomplishment. You're only as great as your last success. So maintain your hunger and your passion. Remember this: within every seed there is a tree, and every tree there is a forest. Knowing what you were born into, it's a living environment to prepare you for your ultimate purpose. It is not a setback, it was a setup. Your purpose and potential is bigger than your past, pain, or challenge. Listen to your heart, the one that you love. All the time, whatever you do, it's gonna shake back at you. Successful people who do the things they hate get the things they love. Much of life is about sacrifice. You gotta have something to get there. Success is not about what you've accomplished, but it's what you have overcome. So it's a test that you pass in life, which qualifies you for the next level. You have to be willing to face your challenges and overcome them. Most people drive 12,000 miles a year moving forward, but most accidents are caused when they move back. You gotta stay focused on what's ahead of you instead of what's behind you. It's your daily routine that determines your success or failure. Whatever you practice, that is what you become great at. What's more importantly, being intelligent is having the right attitude. Respect costs you nothing, but it will cost you everything to have it. So don't be too smart for your own good. Remember, a hard head makes yourself behind. What's more important than your five senses is common sense. A fool is in his mouth, but the heart of the wise man is in his character. So don't sweat the small things. The empty more short temper is a long life. Be slow to speak, quick to listen, and remember this: you live long enough to learn everything. Your character is what matters most. Once you have been labeled in the light of reputation, it's hard for people to see you in the other way. A good name is worth more than all the money in the world. Your life is broken up into three parts. First you learn, then you earn, and then you return. And get back.
All right, that's Daddy Talk. Ferris Hill. Let me get one more in here. Let me see. I gotta play Round the Swan. Let's get this. I like what I see in here.
I look in the mirror and I like what I see. A strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, and stolen from and hit, but it just made me stronger and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right, now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me and brought me out of darkness so that I could see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of the King. Abundant love for me, he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
90.7 WTCC. Good morning to everybody who's chiming in from everywhere. Whatever part of the world you are in, rep your city, rep your town, let me know. I think we fixed the sound on IG. If y'all can hear me on Instagram, holler back at me. You know, throw a microphone emoji or something up in there. Let me know that you hear a brother. I think we got it worked out on there. For those who, yes, thank you. Keyshawn Dodge on IG. Okay, so the sound is on. We all good. All good in the hood. Listen, tomorrow is the second iteration of y'all excuse me, I'm eating. I got a long day, and when I have those long days, back to back stuff after I get off the radio, I got to eat something because I miss lunch and breakfast because I get up early. So anyway, Lift Every Voice lecture series continues tomorrow. Our guest is Dr. Aubrey Hendricks. Okay, and Dr. Aubrey Hendricks is the author of a new book that he'll be discussing: Christians Against Christianity, How Right-Wing Evangelicals Are Destroying Our Nation and Our Faith. Need a copy of this book, y'all. See that on G? See that on Facebook? Look, you need a copy of this book. There's commentary on here by Brittany Cooper, Eddie Glaude, Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, Robert Jones, Mark Lamont Hill, and others. And we're going to be discussing some of the things that are in this book and his take on what's happening in our nation. And there will be a Q&A. He's a professor at Yale, former professor at Columbia, a scholar, a theologian, a preacher. You want to be in the house with Dr. Aubrey Hendricks on tomorrow at 7 p.m. It is virtual. I need you to go and register. And all you need to do is go to focusspringfield.com. focusspringfield.com/LEV, an acronym for Lift Every Voice, LEV 2022. And then you can register and be a part of it on tomorrow. You want to be a part of this tomorrow. I'm telling you. And then I'm excited about our April lecture. Eaton Thomas, former NBA star, author, activist. In fact, let me pull his book out as well. His book is called Police Brutality and White Supremacy: The Fight Against American Traditions. Okay, that's hot. How he remade the iconic picture of Huey P. Newton with himself. And I was interviewed for this book, and also other people who are interviewed include Steph Curry, Chuck D, Yamiche Alcindor, Isaiah Thomas, Jamel Hill, Craig Hodges, Stan Van Gundy, Mark Cuban, Jake Tapper, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, Kyle Korver, Rick Strom, Sink Uger, Tim Wise. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Rex Chapman, and so many. Chiquisia Clemens, Pastor John Jenkins, Officer Carlton Berkeley, just so many who are part of this compilation of interviews on the subject of police brutality and white supremacy by Eaton Thomas. And Eaton will be our final guest for our lecture series this year, and that's going to be happening on April 19th. So you want to register. You want to become a part of that. I put it in the chat there on Facebook and YouTube, etc. FocusSpringfield.com/LEV 2022. And in addition to our lecture, we've got musical guests, we've got spoken word guests, we've got dance guests, we've got an award presentation. Commissioner Helen Colton Harris is our awardee for tomorrow's Lift Every Voice session. So you want to be a part of it. Go on and register and plan to be with us on tomorrow evening. All right. Once again, rep your city, rep your town. Let's see who's in the building. Springdale, Maryland is in the building. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is in the building. Hagerstown, Maryland is up in the building. Fairburn, Georgia is in here. Chicago is in the building. Come on, y'all. Come on. I need y'all to rep. Let me know where you're coming in from. I don't see YouTube. Where y'all at, YouTube? Where y'all at? Come on. Holla at a brother. 413-337-1867 is the number if you want to chime in. If you're in the Twitter space, go on in and put in your request in the Twitter space. I see you, Deacon Lovejoy. Go on in the Twitter space, put in your request, and we'll get you into the conversation. So here's the question of my brothers and my sisters. I see you grown folks. Here's the question. Houston, Texas, in the building. Bridgeport, Connecticut. All right, Elder Ginyard's niece. I see you, Taylor. All right. Jesse Preacher Man Burgess. Good morning to you, sir. Here's the question. Are Ukrainians more deserving of sympathy than Haitians, than Somalians, than Iraqis, than Nigerians? Are they more worthy of sympathy than a myriad of other individuals who are facing crises in their nation and find themselves in the uncomfortable position of having to be refugees from their own nation and seeking asylum somewhere else? Of course, we know that the answer is no. However, that's not what you would think when you listen to the coverage of the war in Ukraine. If you listen to these lily white journalists on air, and they're speaking unabashedly, I mean, there's no shame in their game in terms of how they blatantly espouse these racist viewpoints. Charlotte, North Carolina, in the building. Um, um, and what's crazy about it is they had the nerve. Some of them have the nerve to be saying stuff like, "I'm choosing my words carefully." How do you say a bunch of racist stuff and then tell me that you're choosing your words carefully? You know, that is the cognitive dissonance is crazy with these folks. You know, when you can say racist stuff and then say, I'm choosing my words carefully because I don't want to sound like I'm racist, even though I'm being racist. When you don't recognize your racism and tell me, so Charlie DeGatta, the CBS News senior foreign correspondent, right? He says that he really says this on the air. He really says this. He says this on the air. He says, Ukraine isn't a place, with all due respect. I'm about to say something racist, so I gotta say with all due respect. Isn't a place like Iraq or Afghanistan that has seen conflict raging for decades. Then he says this. He says this is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city. Then he says it's a city, quote, where you wouldn't expect that or hope that's not going to happen. Now, if this is choosing your words carefully, I would hate to think what you would say if you weren't careful in choosing your word. I mean, would you just say something? Yo, dog, these are white people. These ain't them N-words over in Africa and the Middle East. This shouldn't be happening to white folks. Because that's basically what you said without saying that. And I guess that's how you would have said it if you didn't choose your words carefully. As if Ukrainians are more deserving of our empathy and sympathy because they're white. This is literally what this dude was saying on CBS. Okay? He said it on the air, y'all. Like it wasn't no big deal. Like it wasn't no big deal. Now, of course, people were outraged and he apologized. But since Russia began its invasion at the end of February, CBS hasn't been the only network that has described the plight of Ukrainians in some decidedly racist terms. The BBC, matter of fact, I'm going to play some of this stuff for y'all. Give me just a moment. I'm going to play some of it for you. But the BBC interviewed a former deputy prosecutor general of Ukraine. who told the network, and I'm going to play that clip after I do my interview with the senator, but so stay ready for that. But he says this. He literally says this, and I want to give you the direct quote so you don't think I'm putting words in his mouth. This is actually what he said. It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed every day. That's exactly what he said. This is emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed every day. And rather than question or challenge the comment, the BBC host replies, I understand and respect that emotion. So this is literally what he's saying. This is emotional for me because these are white people. And the BBC host says, yeah, I agree. You know, we got to do something about the fact that these are white people being killed. Now, if these were brown people in Afghanistan or Iraq, if these were black people in Africa, yeah, I mean, we get that. We understand that. But these are white people being killed. We got to do something about that. We're going to talk more about this on the other side of the senator. 413-337-1867. 413-337-1867. And we'll open up the phone lines. I see the requests coming in Twitter Spaces, and we'll get your request in. I'm sorry, Instagram. I apologize because the sound went out on Instagram again, so we're trying to get that back up. Let me know if you can hear me on Instagram. In the meantime, let me bring Senator Eric Lesser up. He's going to come and give us our State House update. Y'all hold your calls until after the interview, and then we'll definitely we'll get you on the line.
Good morning, Bishop. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, no, quite a time. It's like, why can't we have some nice, easy topics to talk about on our our monthly sessions?
Never easy. No,
it really isn't. So, well, good morning, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, what's happening?
So we got a lot going on at the State House. So the State House is back open. I know a lot of people had been emailing and calling me about that. So it is back open for business, for in-person, visits for the public. And actually today, the Senate President and the Speaker announced that they are lifting the vaccine mandate and the mask mandate for guests. Still, obviously, if you want to wear a mask, and I would encourage people to wear masks, but it's no longer required. So that was a big announcement. Individual offices, will set their own policies for different senators and reps offices, but the building itself will have that standard. We finished a great ceremony, Black Excellence on the Hill last week, where actually three local people were recognized. Keith Ferry from Wayfinders, Latonia Naylor from the school committee was also honored, was Senator Gomez's honoree, and my honoree was Lenny Underwood for Upscale Socks, for the new Massachusetts sock he designed and has been donating to charity. So that was great. And we're approaching budget time. It's still a little early, but the kind of beginnings of the budget process are underway. So that's been very busy, and we're also talking about the remaining ARPA funds, the remaining rescue funds that are still unspent. So a lot of moving pieces, but kind of getting back into the swing of a more normal routine.
Gotcha. So they made some major announcements with the with the ARPA. Um, and apparently there's still, if I'm right, another 2.8 billion that
Exactly.
talk to us about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different pots of money moving around right now, and so it's important, for people to kind of follow the line about where it's all coming from. So there was a more than $5 billion package of aid that went directly to Massachusetts from the Biden administration. This was passed by Congress last March, basically a year ago, this month. We spent about 3 billion of that. It ended up being a little bit more than that, and now a little bit more than 2 billion, as you mentioned, has been held in reserve because we didn't know what was going to happen with Omicron, with the variants, etc. So the first batch of that money has been appropriated and has starting to move out to communities and through the agencies, but we still have more than 2 billion left to decide how to get out the door. Now we have 5 years to do it. Well, now we have 4 years because we're about a year in. But I do think it's important that we appropriate it soon because some of these projects take a long time to get off the ground. Just because you pass the law doesn't mean the shovels are in the ground or the money is out to the communities right away. So we are going to hopefully do that before July. At the same time, we have the regular state budget, and the money projections have come in that we're going to be several $billion above our projections because of, sorry?
In terms of revenue?
Exactly, for the regular state budget. So, between the unused ARPA money and the money that we have coming in above budget for our normal state tax collections, we have some big decisions we've got to make about how we spend it. I feel very strongly that we've got to do it to tackle these big long-term challenges we've had around equity, around investments in gateway cities, around support for our infrastructure, and that's the debate that we're having right now.
Gotcha. Now let's turn to this because I know you didn't think you were going to avoid this. What's happening on the campaign trail?
It's going well. It's a grind, but a fun one because you just got a lot of ground you got to cover. We're in the middle of caucus season right now, so for people who are
Saturday, right?
Yeah, exactly. Springfield's is Saturday. Chicopee's is also this coming weekend. We've got kind of a Western Mass swing, which is nice because it's the last weekend, so I'll round it out close to home. But over the weekend, I was in Boston. I was in Middleton, which is a town in Middlesex County. I was in Petersham, which is a community in north central Mass, just east of the Quabbin Reservoir. And tonight I have several virtual caucuses. And I was also in Worcester for a very big caucus I had on Saturday. The neat thing about this, Bishop, really been an opportunity to talk about the same things we talk about on the show every month. Investment in rail service, investing in our regions. Certainly in Worcester, people were very excited about the idea of a lieutenant governor from Western Mass, even west of them. So it's going really, really good, and we're getting good support. We're getting good pledges from the delegates, and certainly we'll take the opportunity to ask everybody who's listening for their support and their consideration as well, if they're interested in helping out.
All right. So those of you who don't know, who've been sleeping under a rock or something like that, Senator Lesser is running for lieutenant governor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So if you're interested in his campaign or in the things he's doing in his office as senator, you can contact him, give him your information.
All right. Well, the office number is 526-6501 for people who are not in Western Mass. That's 413-526-6501. You can email me, eric.lesser@masenate.gov. You can check us out on Twitter @EricLesser. Instagram @EricLesser, Facebook Eric Lesser MA, or just stop me on the street. I'm going to be out and about today at a bunch of different meetings, so would really love to hear from people. Or come stop by the Springfield Caucus on Saturday. So there should be a good crowd there.
I think everybody's going to be out there. So that's good. I'm hearing from all the statewide candidates, they'll be around here.
Yeah, I'm here. We were joking that we should just rent like a minibus or something to drive all the different candidates. I think there's 15 of us for all the different statewide offices. So
yeah, Absolutely. All right. Always a pleasure, Senator.
Hey, thanks, Bishop. Take care.
Yeah, take care. 413-337-1867. Senator Eric Lesser with our State House update. I don't know what's happening. Instagram. Can y'all hear me on the gram? If you can hear me on the gram, just let me know you can hear me. This is about the third time I had to restart the gram. And there's a couple of hundred people over there who unfortunately keep getting shortchanged because the sound. I don't know what's up, man. Sometimes I really think that, and hey, just because I might be um, paranoid doesn't mean it's not happening. Sometimes I think there's a conspiracy going on here because, man, it's just too much of a coincidence. That sound keeps going on and off and on and off on the gram. The gram keeps deciding to stop me from being able to go live and restricting me and all this and all of that and the other. I don't know, man. I just don't think that that's a coincidence. But anyway, we're gonna keep on plugging along. Yes, I was talking about the BBC. That these are European people with blonde hair and blue eyes that are being killed. And the television interviewer was like, "Yeah, I feel you." Then there was on BFM TV in France, Philippe Courbet says this about Ukraine. He says, "We're not talking about Syrians fleeing the bombing of the Syrian regime backed by Putin. We're talking about Europeans leaving in cars that look like ours to save their lives." In other words, not only do Ukrainians look like us, their cars look like our cars. I mean, this is what these people are saying on TV. There was an ITV journalist from Poland that said, "Now the unthinkable has happened. And this is not a developing third world nation. This is Europe." As if war always and forever, should not be in Europe. Like she has no sense of history whatsoever. Then there was another journalist who says that this isn't people in North Africa. They look like any middle class European family that might be living next door. This is the stuff that these people are saying. Let me play it for you, and then I'll open up the phone lines and get you all in the Twitter space as well. Let me play it for you because you gotta hear this. You gotta hear this.
This is not a developing third world nation. This is Europe.
These are prosperous middle class people. These are not people trying to get away from areas in North Africa. They look like any European family that you would live next door to.
What could be a difference here from other conflicts, that could seem very far away, in Africa or Middle East or whatever. I mean, these are Europeans that we're seeing being killed.
This isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
This is not a developing third world nation. This is Europe.
These are prosperous middle class people. These are not people trying to get away from areas in North Africa. They look like any European family that you would live next door to.
What could be a difference here from other conflicts, that could seem very far away, in Africa or Middle East or whatever. I mean, these are Europeans that we're seeing being killed.
This isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
Okay, so you get the point. This is the commentary. This is the commentary by white journalists across the globe. In other words, this is what they're saying. These are white people being killed. These are white people. This is Europe. We don't expect this kind of violence in Europe among white people. Let's just keep it a buck. White on white crime is the way of the world. White on black violence is the way of the world. Go online now and look it up. Since recorded history started, as far back as historians can go, 1,000 years BC, and every century thereafter, every century, there have been multiple savage wars, violent incursions in Europe. Now that doesn't even count the savage violence that Europeans have inflicted on black people across the continent of Africa. Just about every colonized African country was colonized by Europeans. That doesn't count the enslavement, the brutal enslavement of Africans throughout the Caribbean and North America. And remember, let's not separate completely American history from European history, because the white folks that came over here exacting the brutality on indigenous people came from Europe. So that was a continuation of European violence. So the slaughter and the genocide and murder of indigenous people in America was Europeans. The enslavement, rape, murder, lynching of Africans were Europeans. Where the hell did y'all learn y'all history to be up here acting shocked and surprised about violence among Europeans? I mean, we can go, like I said, 1,000 years BC. I mean, we can do the Sparta-Argos War, the Greek Punic Wars, the First Sacred War, the Arcadian Wars. I mean, come on, man. Are y'all serious? The Peloponnesian Wars, the Corinthian War, the Celtic invasions, Alexander's Balkan campaign. All of this is Europe. All of this is violence in Europe. The Roman Wars, the Saxon Wars, the Germanic Wars, the Crusades, the 100 Years' War, World War I. Ever heard of that? World War II. Ever heard of that? The Holocaust. Where in the hamburger do y'all think that was? It wasn't in Africa. It wasn't in the Middle East. Where do y'all think they murdered 6 million Jews? Come on, stop pretending white on white violence is foreign to Europe. The Napoleon Wars, the Serbian Wars, the Russian-Persian War, the Russian-Turkish War, the Finnish War, the Polish-Austrian War, the Serbian uprising, the Soviet-Turkish War. Come on, y'all. And you know what? Y'all so talking about, oh, this, my God, this is Ukraine. Ukraine has had wars. You have the Ukrainian War of Independence, the Ukrainian Soviet War, the Polish-Ukrainian War. Stop acting like Ukrainians have never dealt with violence. Savage war and violence is the European way. It's ingrained in their history. And for y'all to sit up here jumping on TV acting shocked, like, yeah, we would expect this in Africa, but not in Europe, is another revision of history. Let me get Issa in the Twitter space. Issa, you're in the Twitter space. Come on through, Issa. All right. Going once. Gone. Hit me back. Put in your request and we'll get you up in here. You got to turn your mic on immediately so you can begin to conversate. 413-337-1867. Let's just keep it a buck, y'all. Let's just keep it 100. I mean, all of this history, all of this world history. I mean, and y'all really gonna sit up here pretending like violence in Europe is some foreign thing, man. Stop it. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Bishop Swan. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Good. Bishop Swan, me and you have minds alike. I said I got to call in about this, thing that's going on with the people that are being bombed and everything. Okay, they don't recognize black people as human beings when they're suffering.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's like you have to be white to be rescued from any kind of oppression or anything.
Of course.
And I heard, I don't know the true story, but some Haitians came over here in a boat the other day, and they washed up on the shore. So I'm not sure what happened to them, but it's just they're phony, and they want us to. I mean, I feel bad. I have sympathy for people that are suffering, but black people, we've been suffering all our lives in one way or the other, and it's like you're on your own. And that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate your call.
And I appreciate you every week coming on, and I thank you for all you do for the community.
All right. Thank you, sis. God bless.
Take care.
413-337-1867. Let me try something else on the gram because it keeps losing sound. I think they're cutting my sound out. They don't like the topic. They don't like the subject matter. They don't like how we spit in hot fire. So, they're running interference over there. So I got to do something a little different. So somebody on the gram, tell them to come on over here to Facebook or YouTube or wherever. 413-337-1867. Let's just, and this is not being anti-white. This is not being unfair in terms of my depiction of violence among Europeans. This is just stating historical facts. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I just want to know Bishop Swan. But I wanted to say too, what they fail to report is that it's their own kind killing each other.
Right.
And they don't report that. It's like European crime on crime. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your call. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why it's so crazy when people begin to talk about black on black crime and stuff like that, which is, of course, a misnomer. The world is about white on white crime. Every war that has ever been fought is about white on white crime. So listen, y'all need to just stop playing. Stop playing with me, man. or like the young folks say, stop playing with me, bro. Stop playing with me, bro. All that kind of stuff. The most heinous forms of violence and torture recorded in history were started by Europeans. That's just the reality of what it is. That's what it is. You know, if we crucifixion, and I know y'all will say, "Oh, that was in the Middle East." Who you think did that? Crucifixion? That was a European thing. Okay, that was European. That was brought over to North Africa by Europeans. And we can just go on and on and on in terms of the violent ways in which they used to subjugate people. Beheading. Where do you think beheading came from? I mean, to chop people's heads off and put them on a spike and stick them on a fence somewhere. Where y'all think that came from? I'm going to try to get you back in the Twitter space, Issa. Issa, you're on. Come through, Issa. All right, I think Issa.
Oh, you hear me?
Yeah.
Blessing Bishop. Sorry, I wanted to interact with you today because I think it's a high time for European people and white people to acknowledge their own history, you know, because we're always hiding behind the curtain, you know. Mm-hmm. You quoted what happened on media, on TV news, and it shocked me to hear that there was I am talking like Hitler, like. Oh, we feel so sorry because white people with blue eyes. Bishop, it's coming from Hitler thinking, you know. Mm-hmm. You. I'm sorry, you're not anti-white, but you're just talking facts.
Exactly.
You just
exactly. I mean, if the facts.
You're just asking us to think with empathy and our heart and logic thinking. I don't see nothing that's hateful on that. And there were war before the Ukraine, you're right, in Africa, nobody cares about.
Right. Exactly right. Exactly right. If you're right, if this was happening in Africa, they wouldn't give a hamburger. You wouldn't see the kind of coverage that we've had more coverage about the war in Ukraine in 2 weeks than we ever had in the genocide in Rwanda, in which nearly 1 million Rwandans were murdered.
Absolutely. Not to mention also there's a post-colonial issue in Africa, and most of the war is about us Europeans putting our nose here. We're one of the most barbaric community, to be honest. Mm-hmm. We rape, we torture, for ages, we're barbaric. When we dislike a religion, we kill people. Let's be honest, we kill activists. That's for human rights.
Right.
I think it's high time to face ourselves in the mirror, Bishop. Just that's it, you know. Because if we don't do it, then nothing's gonna change at some point. Or there's gonna be a huge revolution on Earth. Believe me, because African people are getting ready. Pan-Africanism is to the age, and a lot of movement out there are done with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
To say that.
Appreciate your commentary, sis. Thank you so much, man. Listen. I think one of the key words she used was barbaric. Barbaric. Yes. Absolutely. So when they start calling black people savages, you know where the barbary came from. You know where the savagery came from. It didn't come from us. Crucifixion, beheading, to be hung, drawn, and quartered. That's a European thing. I mean, they would literally hang you by the neck until you were on the edge of death. Then they would cut you down. And it wasn't an act of mercy. They would cut you down, and then they would cut out your intestines while you were still alive. I mean, whew. Then they would kill you. They would put a horse-driven carriage on each limb, tie each limb, each leg, each arm, and send the carriages out in 4 different directions and just pull your body apart. That's European. Who thinks of that kind of stuff? That's the kind of savagery. That's the kind of barbaric thinking that is inherently European. So y'all to sit up here and pretend like, I can't believe this isn't happening in Africa. This is Europe. These are blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. Blonde-haired and blue-eyed people have fought in the most heinous wars that the world has ever known. And let's just keep it 100. And like the caller just said, that's not being anti-white. That is just stating the facts. I wish I had more time. 9:58. I'll go a little bit longer. We're not going to be on Justice and Flow, so I may go 10 minutes or so after 10 o'clock, just to give you some final points. But for those who are listening on WTCC, remember to register for the Lift Every Voice lecture series. Register for the Lift Every Voice lecture series. Once again, focusspringfield.com. Focusspringfield.com /LEV 2022. You need to go and you need to register. Dr. Aubrey Hendricks will be with us on tomorrow. Dr. Aubrey Hendricks will be with us on tomorrow, and you do not want to miss tomorrow's lecture. So go register. For those of you who are in our social media spaces, stay with us. We'll go a little past the hour. We'll get this last few requests on the Twitter space, and then I got to roll out because I got some stuff I got to do. But for those on WTCC, come on over here to the social media side. Otherwise, until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you, and so do I. All right. Let's get it crunk. All right. We'll go a few more minutes over on this side. Shout out to First Lady. We normally would be doing Justice and Flow right now, but we'll be back with you next week with a little bit more of the good on next week. The Instagram is tripping, y'all. They have cut the sound on my live 4 times. 4 times. No reason, just randomly, just sound cut out, sound cut out. Everything else fine, picture the whole. Now I got a couple hundred people over there on the gram trying to listen to this, and they keep cutting the sound out. What is the topic too hot? The block getting too hot for y'all on the gram? I mean, what's the deal with that? Man, this censorship is crazy. You're right, grown folks. I got an account on Fanbase. So if y'all don't follow me on Fanbase, go to Fanbase, follow me on Fanbase, follow me on TikTok. I'm over there as well. Because the gram, no one has censored me more than Instagram. No one has censored me more than Instagram. They have restricted my ability to go live for months at a time. For months at a time, for no reason. What they would do, they would say my post violated their community guidelines. I would ask for a review, then they would come back and say, okay, we reposted it. It didn't violate the community guide. I got like 9 different posts where they took it down, violated my account, said my post violated community guidelines, came back and admitted that it didn't violate community guidelines, but they still restricted my account. Right now, I've got a post. I put up a post of Prince Harry wearing a Nazi uniform, which was widely covered in newspapers across the globe. They said it violated. I asked for a review. They came back and said, okay, it didn't violate, and they reposted it. Then they took it down again, even though they admit it didn't violate the guideline. It's like there's a video up of a black man being called a nigger and beating this white guy because he called him that. I posted that video. DL Hughley has that video on his Instagram account right now. Van Lathan has that video on his account. That video is across Instagram. They took it off of my account and said it violated the community guidelines. Now, how is a video that is viral on your account and literally on thousands of other pages a violation when it's on my page? So I know what's happening. There's somebody who works in the moderation section of Instagram who doesn't like Brother Swan, who continues to monitor my account and flag my posts, even though they know they don't violate the community guidelines, who's going in on my live videos and muting the sound and all of that kind of crazy stuff, all to keep me silent. You know, the lengths that white folk will go through to silence black voices of dissent is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. Let me get these requests on in the Twitter space. Madam, you're in the Twitter space. Come on through, madam.
Yes. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes. Yes. I totally agree. Europeans are very violent people. I'm from Haiti, and one of the things they used to do to the enslaved Africans, for instance, the pregnant women, they used to split their bellies open and then to see who will die first, the baby or the mother.
Wow.
They used to bury people alive and leave their heads out so ants could eat their heads. And pregnant women, if they didn't want to kill them, when they wanted to whip them, they will literally dug a hole, put them on their stomach, so their stomach is inside the hole, and then they'll whip them. The atrocities are endless. They used to literally boil people alive in sugar syrup thing. It's terrible. Like, they are a disease to this earth, and they will eliminate all of us if they can't rule. That's all.
All right. Thank you much. Listen, and I know y'all are tripping. Y'all are like, okay, y'all being anti-white. No, this is history. This is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. What you gonna do about that? Um, the reality is, all of these things actually happened. This is actually a part of history. You can't get beyond that. You can't just decide that you're going to ignore that. It is what it is. Burning people at the stake. Where do y'all think that came from? Where y'all think that came from? That's Europeans. That's where that foolishness started. We think somebody's a witch. We think somebody's a this. We think somebody's that. Somebody disagrees with the crown. Tie them to a stake and burn them alive and have everybody in the town square watch it happen. Like it's a sporting event. That's European. They would, hey, you're going to the beheading today? I mean, that was European. They're like, hey, you're going to the basketball game? That's how natural it was for them. Yeah, you're going to the beheading? Yeah, let's go watch them chop their head off and stick it on a stake. That's Europe. That's Europe. Why do you think you see pictures here in America of those descendants of those Europeans who settled here, lynching black people from trees and sitting around taking pictures, bringing their children to the lynching? Hey, get Billy Bob ready. We're going out to the lynching. And literally bring their 8 and 9-year-old children. Oh, look at the nigger up there. And watch a black person be lynched, burn their bodies, cut off their testicles, and they stand around with a Polaroid. There's a whole book called Without Sanctuary. Get the book. And you see all these pictures of white folks smiling and cheesing around burned, charred, and hung black bodies. They bought that foolishness over here from Europe. So don't sit up here and tell me, these are Europeans. We can't believe this violence is happening. This is Europe. Cut it out. Stop it. This is who y'all are. This is ingrained in your history. This is the reality of what it is, whether you like it or not. I know you don't like me saying it. I know you don't like me saying it. But Jimmy cracked corn, and I don't care. That's what it is. So when y'all hear all of this foolishness going on, all of this talk about this is Europe, this shouldn't be happening, please know better. Please know better. Listen, I got to go. I got to move out your way. Unfortunately, I can't go too much longer. I've got several other meetings I got to prepare for. Once again, Justice and Flow with First Lady Swan continues on next week. So be ready for it. Tomorrow is the Lift Every Voice lecture series. Our special guest is Dr. Obery Hendricks. Once again, register for that. FocusSpringfield.com/LEV 2022. Register for that. You want to be a part of that. It's happening tomorrow at 7 p.m. All right. And if you're in the 413 area, stop by, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ. We're located at 35 Alden Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, and our service starts promptly at 11 o'clock a.m. We're building better tomorrows by changing lives today. All right, I gotta go. I don't want to leave, but I gotta go right now. Yeah, I know y'all tripping. Y'all church folk is tripping. Y'all like, look, I told you the bishop wasn't saved. He's singing Trey songs. Anyway, I'm out of here, y'all. Until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you, and so do I. I'm out. Deuces.
Thank you.